Well, has anything like this happened to you? You walk past something multiple times before you notice it.
Yeah.
Well, you walk past your phone sitting on the counter. You walk past it, and start asking yourself, where did I put my phone? And it's sitting right there on the counter. How about this? You're texting, and then you send the text, but you don't catch the misspelling, because your brain is reading the fact that you typed out a certain word, but it wasn't that word. Either autocorrect changed it for you, or you just went ahead and misspelled it. How many of you looked into the refrigerator and couldn't find what you were looking for, only to have someone else come by and say, there it is, and pull it right out for you? Yeah. How many of you searched for your keys all over the house, taking things apart, only to find out it's in your pocket?
Yeah.
Right.
And your son's like my wife.
Oh, okay.
She knows.
She knows, all right. Well, I remember one time I wasn't noticing anything going on around me. It was back in 2002, after I graduated from seminary. I had done what I call a kamikaze MDiv, because I did 79 credit hours in 22 months. And so I was really, when I graduated, I was really exhausted, and we were up in Maine at the time at my mother's place, and I was just vegging all over the place. But all around me, Joy and the family were planning a graduation party to surprise me. I had no clue. No clue. People were gathering, huddled in a corner. I didn't pay any attention. I was vegging. I mean, people were talking about things. I paid no attention because I was vegging. And then, sure enough, a couple weeks later, a bunch of friends showed up and surprised me. I had no idea. I was just brain dead at that particular point in time. Now, if we look at the reasons why we may miss out on certain things, it could be because of our selective attention. We're not actively looking at something, so we bypass it and don't realize we needed it, and then when we need it, we have to go back hunting for it. There's also the whole idea is your brain's on overload. There's so many things going on in your brain. When that little simple thing like, where's my cell phone, you cannot figure it out because you can't remember where you left it last because you've been thinking about a million things. Or you are just, it's normalcy bias. You miss out on things because everything is normal and go along and nothing changes. All of a sudden when something changes, you don't realize it because normalcy bias. It's not the normal thing, so you just overlook it. And then you're distracted by all sorts of stuff. And it's because you're distracted, you cannot focus on what is right in front of you. And some of you are just rushing around so fast that you cannot see what's going on because you are focused and you're going, and you don't have time to look around and see. And then, of course, there's also the fatigue factor. Some of you are just downright tired. And so you just miss out on things all around you all the time. Well, I want you to turn to Matthew 16, and we're going to look at the following verses. Okay, it went away.
It's coming back.
All right, are we going to find it? Well, there it is. Okay, all right. So don't look at the person in the booth. They're doing the best they can with the computer we have. So they're getting used to the new one. So Matthew 16, 1 to 12 on page 1398 if you're following along in the Pew Bibles. Well, hopefully you're bringing your own so that you can make your own notes. Underline things that you want, write things down. Now, at this point, we're still following Jesus through the whole Gospel of Matthew. We're seeing all what he's done, where he's going, where he's been, and at this particular point in time, Jesus has left a Gentile area. And while he was in this area, the people saw what Jesus did. And it tells us that how they responded. They praised the God of Israel because of what Jesus was doing, healing the sick, helping the lame to walk, the blind to see. And they just responded with, praise this God of Israel, because they knew this was from the God of Israel, not from the local gods that were there. And I do believe that as a result of some of these people came to faith and followed Jesus. But now, when he's done there, Jesus now is going back into a Jewish territory. And then the question is, how are they going to respond? Because Jesus is going to be doing exactly what he's done before. And how are they going to respond to him? And so let's look at these verses in Matthew 16, verses 1 and following. The Pharisees and Sadducees came to Jesus and tested him by asking him to show them a sign from heaven. And I am fading in and out here, all right? There it goes. I know we have extra batteries up here. They should be. Yes, thank you. Okay, so as I talk about here, you're probably going, okay, what is a Pharisee, what is a Sadducee? Well, they're religious leaders. Two different parties, almost like Democrats and Republicans. All right, two parties. One, the Pharisees, they believed in the supernatural. They believed in angels. They believed in eternal life. They believed in all of the Old Testament scriptures. The Sadducees are Sadducee because they didn't believe in eternal life. They didn't think that there was anything beyond this particular life. And so are we picking it up here? No, why not? All right, maybe I put them in wrong as I'm talking. That should be a telltale sign of doing it wrong. And there's actually little symbols in here to show you which way to turn it. There we go. All right. Since I was trying to do too many other things at once, I didn't watch the symbols. So there you go, another one for you. So the Sadducees were really more political in nature. And they just believed in holding the power that they had as they ran the temple. And so when Jesus came, they got together and they could not stand Jesus, both parties. And what you had is when Jesus came back into Jerusalem, the Jewish area, these guys came out to greet him, and they were going to confront him. Why? Because they opposed him. And the last time Jesus was in a Jewish area, which was a couple chapters ago, they approached Jesus and said, hey, your disciples aren't doing the ceremonial washing. Remember that? The ceremonial washing, which you ceremonially wash your hands to show that you're purified from the world around you, so then you can eat your food. Now this is not just a blessing, this is a religious, a ritual act that they started making as almost a commandment. And when they saw that Jesus and the disciples weren't doing this, they called them on the carpet for it. And Jesus said, man, you guys are a bunch of hypocrites. Here you have the commands of God, yet you're breaking the commands of God. You're willing to break the commands of God just to follow the traditions of men. You guys are a bunch of hypocrites. Now these guys are not going to give up. I mean, they want to discredit Jesus. All right? And so when they come to Jesus, they say to him, show them a sign from heaven. Now why do they want a sign from heaven? They opposed what Jesus was doing, and they would wave off all the healings that he did. And they actually, if you remember in the past, they said, he's doing this based on the power of Satan. He's living for Satan. Jesus says, no, I'm not. Why would Satan be against Satan? Why would I cast out a demon if I'm working with Satan? And so they are in agreement that they want to get rid of Jesus. They oppose him. And so they say, show us a sign. Now, a sign that they're looking for is one from heaven. Only God could do. And the sign would be to show that whether he was a false prophet or not. And so they figure, all right, if he could do this sign from heaven and he could really make it happen, then he would be trustworthy and reliable individual. If he couldn't, then he'd be discredited because he wasn't coming from God, because only God could do these heavenly signs. So they're throwing this out at him. And you got to remember, Jesus had done miracle after miracle after miracle, and their eyes could still not see what Jesus was doing. They could not understand. Let's go to verse 2 and 3. He replied, when evening comes, you say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. How many of you look at the sky at night and you see red and you go, oh, it's going to be a good day tomorrow? I mean, we know that. And then he tells them, okay, And in the morning, today will be stormy, for the sky is red and overcast. We run across with the same things. We think of this day, but then Jesus says, you know how to interpret the appearances of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. Jesus says, man, you guys are so blind. It's right there in front of you. I am performing miracles right in front of you, and you just say, no, they don't mean anything. You just look past them and you try to come up with some other thing to do. Now, if we go to Isaiah, this is a messianic passage where
then the eyes of the blind will be opened and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then will the lame leap like a deer and the mute tongue shout for joy. A messianic passage. They should know this.
They should know that when Isaiah was talking about this, it was God saying when the Messiah comes, these types of things would take place. But what did they do? No. They could not see these things because their eyes were blind, because they were either distracted by other things, they were selective in their attention, they had a normalcy bias, whatever it is that they were dealing with, they were skeptical and stubborn people. They could not interpret anything that goes on here. Verse 4. A wicked and adulterous generation looks for a miraculous sign, but none will be given it except the sign of Jonah. And Jesus then left them and went away. Jesus point blank says, and you guys, the reason you do not see, the reason you cannot
Look in the refrigerator and see the milk you want is because you're blinded. The reason you cannot see something that you walk past a million times and then when you're looking for it, you don't know it's there is because you are refusing to see because you're wicked. Jesus says you're wicked. They do evil. It's natural for them. It comes from their heart. And when Jesus comes, they can't deal with it. And then
they're adulterous, meaning
in this case, that when they see God, they are
serving other gods and not the true God. They are after, for a case like the Sadducees, they're after power and position. Where the Pharisees are after the rituals and just following the law to the T so much that it stifles somebody's faith. And so Jesus says this, the one sign you will eventually see is this, the sign of Jonah. Now he's mentioned this before. What Jesus is saying here is just like the prophet was in the belly of this large fish for 3 days and then eventually spit out to the shore. Can you imagine what he looked like after he was spit out onto the shore? I mean, the stomach, stuff that the fish would have. I mean, I got a feeling he came out looking pretty white and pale and scary. And so when he went walking into Nineveh to preach, they said, this guy is, a little scary. We better believe him. So here, Jesus is saying, this is the sign you're going to get. He's referring to his death, his burial, and his resurrection. That's the sign you're going to see. But guess what happens later on? When this happens, what do these guys say? This thing happened, and they still turn their eyes. They're still distracted. They still can't see. It's a normalcy bias. They're rushing around. Whatever it is, they cannot see it, and Jesus throws this out at them. They cannot see right in front of them. Now, we're going to continue on. Jesus left. Now, where does he go? He jumps on a boat. They're traveling across. They're going to get to another part of on the other side of the lake. And when they had went across the lake, the disciples forgot to take bread. Now, I'm sure they had to leave pretty quickly. Because the Pharisees and the Sadducees were probably getting a little upset at what Jesus was doing. So Jesus said, get in the boat, let's get out of here. Because Jesus is saying, this is not my time to die yet. And these guys want to kill me. So let's just get out of this confrontation, let's get out of this thing, and let's head off. And the disciples had to quickly get everything, get on the boat and go. And they forgot to take bread with them. How did they know? Well, I'm sure their stomachs were starting to growl. How many of you weren't thinking about food, and all of a sudden your stomach starts going, and you're like, oh my goodness. You're sitting in church all of a sudden, and then you're looking around. Anybody hear that? I mean, I think this is what the disciples started saying. They go, oh my goodness, we forgot to bring bread. We forgot. Their stomachs are growling. They started discussing among themselves. I thought you brought the bread. Well, I thought you were getting the bread. We didn't bring any bread? What are we going to eat? All right, what are we going to do now, boy? We messed up. What is Jesus going to say? Oh, no. And they're discussing this. And then Jesus probably hears their discussion. And this is what he says. Be careful, Jesus said to them. Be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Jesus says this. They're discussing physical bread. And Jesus says, watch out for the yeast of the Pharisees. And they got to be going, what? I mean, what does he mean by this? That Jesus is taking the issue of bread, and he's going to have another teachable moment, just like Jesus does. Takes something that's physical and changes it into a spiritual lesson. A teachable moment. He goes, this is a good time to teach them about how bad the Pharisees and Sadducees are with their teaching. So he says this. And in verse 7, it says, they discussed this among themselves and said, is it because we didn't bring any bread? Is Jesus taunting us a little? Is Jesus making fun of us? Is Jesus reprimanding us? Or is Jesus saying, if you got some yeast from those guys, when we get ready to make bread, don't use that yeast, it's bad? They got to be thinking some wild things here. Well, what does he mean by all this? And you notice they discuss among themselves. Why? No one wants to ask the question, Jesus, what do you mean? Because they would look like the fool. And so they'd rather live in the darkness of not knowing what's going on than ask the question. And so they discuss this among themselves. Right? Number 8, aware of their discussion. Jesus is aware of it all. He's aware. I mean, you got these 12 guys sitting over there talking, going, looking at them, and Jesus goes, hey, yeah, they're saying something. And then he goes to them, and Jesus asks, first of all, he says, you of little faith. You of little faith. Why are you talking among yourselves about having no bread? And he continued, do you still not understand? Come on, dummies. I mean, you've been with me how long? You see what I can do? And then he says, don't you remember the 5 loaves and the 5,000 and how many basketfuls you gathered? Or the 7 loaves for the 4,000 and how many basketfuls you gathered? He's asking this question. Don't you remember what I did about bread physically? I fed all these people off of very little. Don't you think I can take care of the 12 of you with nothing? Don't you have the faith you need? Come on, where's your faith? I just proved it to you twice. And they're sitting there going, how dumb can we get? Now, don't blame them. Look at your own life. Sometimes God is telling you exactly what you should be doing and you don't. So don't pick on the disciples, even though I'm doing it right now, because I'm pointing the finger at me. That's right here you have, they're focused on this food. And when Jesus talks about the yeast, they don't understand because they're still thinking of food. And Jesus says, don't worry about physical food. I can take care of that. I just proved it. And then we go on to verse 11. How is it that you don't understand that I was not talking to you about bread? I'm not talking about physical bread, folks. But be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Now, then they understood that he was not telling them to guard against the yeast used in the bread, but against the teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They finally got it. Jesus had to point it out. And sometimes we need it pointed out. You see, the point here is that when the Pharisees and the Sadducees start teaching what they believe to be true, it leads people away from God and not towards God. Jesus is the answer. And they're trying to get rid of Jesus. The Pharisees are making laws so important that you got to follow these laws and follow these laws and follow these laws and do this and do that, do that. They forgot about the heart of God, which is love, and just taking people by faith, not by all this works and action. God just wants your heart. The Sadducees don't even believe in an afterlife. Don't listen to them. Because what did Jesus say to the criminal on the cross? Today you will be with me where? In paradise. Jesus believed in the afterlife. Jesus knows what's going on. Jesus knows where you will be. Don't listen to these religious leaders. They're wrong. And so, the points for today's message are this. See Jesus clearly. Because some of you are going through life, you're not realizing what
is going on with Jesus. And so you need to look at it clearly. And the first thing you need to do in order to see Jesus clearly is this: sincerely look. You have to say, I'm going to take the time to find out who Jesus really is. I am going to make the effort, because if you're not sincere about this, you're not going to look, you're not going to care, you're going to do your own thing, because
you'll have your own agenda. You know what you want, and you're going to be busy pursuing it, and you're going to say, I don't need Jesus. But if you're sincere about this, and you're sincere about finding out who Jesus is, you will start seeing who Jesus is. You see, the Pharisees and Sadducees weren't sincere. They had their own agenda. And because of that, they could not see through everything that was out there who Jesus really was, because they weren't sincere. It starts with being sincere. Are you sincere about looking for Jesus today? Are you going to make it your effort? But then after you're sincere, you want to pursue Jesus with all your heart, mind, and soul. The second point is this. Look at the right resources.
What's the right resource? It's the Bible. And when you look at the Bible and you read it, now there's other resources out there. Early church fathers wrote a bunch of things down. And if we took all the early
church fathers and all the verses that they quoted and referred back to, you could basically put the whole Bible together just on their words alone. So there's all these resources out there that are saying, hey, look at the life and teaching of Jesus. But what ends up happening? People start looking at you and me, and when we mess up, they go, I don't want that Jesus. They start seeing how people respond, and rather than looking at Jesus, they look at people who claim to be Jesus, who follow Jesus, and some of those people who claim to be followers of Jesus aren't followers of Jesus. They like the title for some reason. I don't know why. Don't choose to name yourself as a follower of Jesus if you're not going to follow. And so people look at people and they just, oh man, I can't believe this. Get your eyes off of people and onto Jesus. I mean, there's other things that people will go to. They go, well, maybe if I just look inside myself, I'll find the real Jesus within me. No, the only way Jesus is in you, if you choose to follow him, the Holy Spirit is in you, and the Holy Spirit will show who Jesus is. No, this is not an Oprah Winfrey type of faith. Be honest. Listen to some of these people out there where they talk about religion. And you know, in America, people talk, oh, I'm a Buddhist. Well, let me tell you, if you were a real Buddhist, you wouldn't be living like you're living. You're creating your own fantasy of a faith, all right, based on what you like, and you're pulling things from here and there. And if you're really a Buddhist, man, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. So don't lie and create your own thing. You're a hypocrite is what you're doing. If you want to follow Buddhism, follow it with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. If you want to follow Jesus, follow it with your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Don't start adding other things. Follow the right resources. Because if you don't, you're going to follow a messed up Jesus. And the Bible doesn't show us a messed up Jesus. The Bible shows us the way, the truth, and the life. The real deal. All right? Third point is this. Stay focused.
The one hard thing to do, you may be sincere. You may be looking at the right sources, but you're going to get distracted. There's a lot of things in this world that are going to take your mind off
of Jesus. And most of them are good. Most of them. Let me tell you, entertainment. I don't know about you. I like watching a good movie. All right? Right now, Joy and I have decided that, you know, for Brain Dead Nights, we are going to watch the Star Wars series. Okay? All 11 movies. Okay? All right? Not in one sitting. Okay? That's always like, oh my God. Okay? We just watch them all, usually Friday night after she's worked and whatever, and I've done all the household duties, and it's my day off, so I do all the house. So I'm a good housewife right now. So that's what she tells me. So I'm doing the best I can. But entertainment can get our eyes focused off Jesus. You have to make money. You have to have a job. And money is not evil. It's the love of money that's the root of evil. There's nothing wrong with making some money. Nothing wrong at all with it. You just don't let money control you. And some people are distracted by, I gotta make money, I gotta make money, I gotta make money. I mean, and some of you I know are having a difficult time, making ends meet. Because things are tough. Understand that. Then there's all sorts of power that people can get. I mean, even in small little communities, people, even groups of 4 and 5, somebody always tries to rise up to take the power and control. I mean, it doesn't mean that, that it's just some of our legislators up there that are doing wacky things, but, we got to pray for them that God can get a hold of them and do things that are right and good for all the nation. And so here, there's so many things that can take our minds off of Jesus. There's so many things that take up our time and energy. And yes, there are sinful things that can do it, but it's usually for believers. It's not the sinful things, it's the good things in life. That rather than just enjoying those things in the moment, we make those what we pursue. So let's not just pursue that. Number 4. After you've been sincere, you look at the research.
Focus, weigh the facts. I tell you, there is enough facts that say Jesus is who Jesus says he was. We just go Old Testament, look at prophecies and how Jesus fulfilled those prophecies. Man, that is good facts. And then we look at his own life, the death, the burial, and resurrection. Yet all these people that saw him and wrote it down.
And saying, yeah, he rose from the grave. Eyewitness accounts. And you have testimonies of so many different people. And you hear testimonies of people today. I mean, someone I know came to faith. He was suicidal. After he came to faith, his life was radically changed. He wants to live now, not die. But there's a testimony of what God can do. The problem is not the lack of evidence. The problem is people are not looking for it. Now, I've told you this before. I got a couple of simple, great books that if you want to know facts, you want to know if Jesus is real, Ward the Carpenter and Case for Christ. I got copies of those if you want to read those. Because if you're in the society today, they want to know, is this real? They'll see it hopefully first in your life being real, and then they'll want to know about it through facts in and of themselves. There's enough facts. I would not be up here if there wasn't enough facts. When I felt God wanted me to go into ministry full-time, and I really sat down and said, do I really believe what I believe? Because if I'm going to teach it, I better really believe it. And there's enough out there that draws me to the conclusion it is real. Most people just don't want to consider it because it begins with they're not sincere. So it needs to begin with sincerity, looking at the right resources, staying focused, and weigh the facts. And the last one is this. Acknowledge there is an enemy.
Acknowledge there is Satan, because in 2 Corinthians 4:4, this verse says the following. The God of this age, meaning the devil, has blinded the minds of unbelievers so that they cannot see the light of the gospel that displays the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. The reason people do not believe is because they've been blinded. They say, well, I'm in control. No, you're not.
There's 2 beings in this universe that are in control, and you choose which one is going to have control. Jesus or Satan. You can say, well, Satan doesn't have me. Yeah, he does if you're not a follower of Christ. That's what the Bible says. You're either following Jesus or you're following the devil, and the devil will allow you to do whatever you want, how you want, when you want, and will egg you on to do it as long as it takes you away from Jesus. That Jesus is there saying, I lovingly want to offer you something, and you can only get it if you put your total trust and faith in me. You see, Satan is subtle. Satan distorts the truth. Satan will shift your priorities, and he will wean you away. And you won't see the great things that Jesus is doing. There's a lot of Christians out there say, well, I don't see Jesus. Well, you're not looking. Jesus is not doing nothing. That is not doing anything because your eyes are closed. Jesus is always doing something. You just have to know where to look. Keep Jesus at the center. Be on guard. Read, pray, fellowship. Let me tell you, a century on his own does not guard a castle. One century doesn't guard a castle. What does it? You have centuries placed all over. The benefit of a fellowship of believers is there's a bunch of centuries looking out for each other, helping, encouraging one another to keep their eyes focused on Jesus. So if you want to see Jesus, you want to see what he really can do, you're only going to see it if you're sincere about pursuing him. You're only going to see it if you're looking at the right sources, the right resources. You're looking and saying, God, show me. You're staying focused.
Because it's easy to be distracted. You're weighing the facts and say, yeah, the facts say Jesus is Lord. I'm going to follow it. I'm going to believe it. But you got to watch out because there's an enemy out there that is trying to get you to be unsincere. There's an enemy out there that wants you to look at incorrect resources and lead you astray. There's an enemy out there that wants to distract you. There's an enemy that says, hey, don't look at those facts. Don't consider those. So be aware of all this. And
understand, Jesus is doing stuff. Even today. Lives are being changed today. And they're all over the place. There's stories that should be shared. There's testimonies that should be given. Because Jesus is real. And Jesus is active. And you will see it when you see him clearly.